Hey, this is the Zach Nevin podcast thing, and this is the second episode. And this is my good friend Dan Gillis.
Hello.
So, Dan, do a small introduction about yourself, about
All
your
right.
creativity.
About my creativity. I'd say my creativity started from the very beginning. I had an unusual birth. I was born in a car, actually. We almost made it to the hospital, but not quite.
That,
I
that-
think
that's that's too early. Let's do more like recent stuff.
uh, like how recent?
Like, did you go to school for creativity or like the arts?
All right. All right. So,
How about your high
I think
school?
I say my creativity started when I got my it started with cameras, and when I remember when I was younger, they had those old disposable Kodak ones, and I went to Disney World, and I got a lot of shots with those. And I also remember my first camera phone. So we're talking back to 2007 when the first flip phones had the
Oh, that's
cameras
cool.
on them. And I remember distinctly that when I went to Disney World, I took that was like my first big trip in an airplane and everything back in like 2008. And I remember that I was taking photos on two devices. One was, the disposable cameras. One was an underwater one too. Really cool technology, right? You can get CVS for $20. Those disposable cameras
Disposable
that went
underwater
underwater.
cameras.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't think they're on the shelves anymore. And I got photos with those. And then I was also taking photos with my camera phone, and unfortunately, at the time, because I was like, I think 9 or 10 years old, I was a little idiot, and I left my phone in my pants and they went to the wash. So there went all
Ah,
the
so all those
photos.
photos are gone.
All those photos are gone, unfortunately, yes. Um, but I would say, like, I first started becoming interested with cameras and the idea of becoming a movie director when I was a kid because I said I want to order people around. I don't want to be the person that has to do all the lifting the boxes and stuff. I want to be telling people, you go there, you go there, you go there, you do that.
Like George Lucas. Like, hey.
And like George Lucas, yeah, any of those auteurs, I wanted to be the guy in charge. And when I was younger, I also took a trip to Los Angeles. I went to Warner Brothers Studios, and I went to a couple other studios as well, just seeing the grounds and everything. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to get into the film industry. I want to do something with cameras. I wasn't quite sure exactly. I just said director, but that's like the head honcho. You don't just start as director.
Yeah, you
That's
gotta
the
work your way
thing
up
that
the
I still
ladder.
struggle with. Yeah, there's always a ladder, but I feel like every time I get on that ladder, I break one of the rungs and I go lower, and I have to like struggle to get back up. It's a lot, but yeah, I'd say the idea of making motion pictures started out early, but I didn't really experiment with videos as much as I did with still photography. I started back a couple years later after the Disney World and Los Angeles. I think around like 2011, 2012, I went to Rochester to see a family friend, and around then I got my first camera. And when I got my first camera, it was not quite a DSLR, it was a point and shoot, but I started experimenting around and taking photos of things that people might skip over, like architecture and small objects around
Like
the
macro
city.
type stuff.
Yeah, macro type stuff, just really experimenting. And I got a lot of good shots from that. And I remember I had them all printed out at Walgreens. So I had like this box somewhere in my house of like 100 photos of Rochester, New York, the most, whatever place. But Kodak comes from there. The
That's
Kodak
cool.
factory is still there, operating to a lower extent, but they still exist. So that's Eastman Kodak, kind of like the birthplace of photography as we know it. So it was
That's
a good
true.
place to get my start there. So yeah, that's how I started in my creativity.
So, did you go to high school for it? Were you interested? Did you pursue it all in high school, or you more focused on education in high school?
In high school, I was definitely more focused on my education. I knew that I wanted to do something with creativity, with photography and videography, cinematography. But the thing was, uh, I knew that academics, came first in making sure I got my ACT scores high and made sure that I passed all my class, not passed all my classes, I made sure to ace all my classes. I was a fairly good student. Looking back on it, I don't know how I did it, but I'd say the high school I went to, Hudson High, was a rough high school. There's some good apples and quite a lot of bad apples.
I think
and
most schools I feel like they have good apples and bad apples.
oh, of course, but I think it was the apples that were in between that were most baffled me. A lot of the apples that were not interested in education at all. They weren't bad people. They weren't getting into fights. They just weren't interested. So I remember the teachers would be so glad when I got to classes because I would participate and I'd be engaged. And they'd be like, wow, thank you. And then I got like ninth in my class because I just, without really pushing myself mega hard. It was just, something that came naturally easy to me. Whereas when it comes to creativity, I actually have to work at it. Some people, it comes really easy. Some people, they just start and they're just like, wow, they have all this stuff. For me, I have to really work at it. And I got accepted to Ithaca College in 2016. And when I started there, I remember taking my first photography class, and I just did awful in the first assignment, and I was like, why does this professor hate me so much? What's wrong with my photos? And it turns out that that whole class was a class about pretty much photoshopping the photos that you took. So I had fine photos, but she didn't like the way I photoshopped them because I didn't do it the same, you know, you
Caliber.
know. And it was like the workflow that she had was different than mine, and she taught me certain ways, and I was experimenting with other ways. She's like, no, you don't do it that way. Wrong. And then take off like 100 points.
Wow.
But no, through that class, I eventually got better. It was really rigorous. It really forced me to think critically. And I'd say the next class was intermediate photography, which really got me to slow down because with digital, I just would take thousands of photos of
Yeah, it's
just,
much easier doing
snap,
that.
snap, snap,
Yeah.
snap, snap, snap.
You fill a card
Yeah.
up and then you're done.
Yeah. Or you buy another card.
Yeah. With film, you got 12 rolls or so, or 12 shots. But with or digital, so the small card fills up, you buy a new one.
Mm. I
Or
got
you
as a
delete that
gift.
one card.
Yeah, I got as a gift when I went off to college a Pentax K1000, which is a 35 millimeter film camera, and I got it actually. It's in the background, you can see,
Yeah,
like
I've
over
seen it.
there. And basically, that camera got me through intermediate photography for the beginning part when we were doing a 35 millimeters, and we got 24 shots or 36, depending on which type. And we'd start with black and white because I actually developed my own film, which was like, I don't know, it was really relaxing to develop your own film. You go in a dark when you go, not just the dark room part was actually the part I didn't enjoy as much as actually just putting the film into the canisters where you pour the chemicals in a room that completely had no light, not even like a red light, nothing, just
Wow.
darkness. And you do that, and you have to. You can open your eyes or close your eyes; it doesn't matter. You have
And
to
it's
be
all
able
black.
to. Yeah, it's all black. It's you can't see anything, and it's just about putting the film on a reel, and then you put four reels in, and then you close it up at its top that has a little hole that's light proof, but you just pour the chemicals in, and then you go over and then you're just developing the film more than using the enlarger to make the prints. Developing the film is my favorite aspect of that, and I did pretty well in that class, and I really enjoyed it. Uh, and when I got further in the class, we eventually got to medium format, and that's where I started taking photos of people. My favorite photo I think I've ever taken is this kid at a gun store, and he's
Yeah,
like
that's my
12 years
favorite one you
old.
have. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just holding this like rifle, and it's like bigger than he is, and he's like, I got 3 of these at home, you know. Like, oh my god. And it was exciting. I even rented a grenade actually for that photo shoot. I took a yeah, I rented a grenade, and I kept it under my bed.
Was it
Yeah,
alive?
no. I like to say I rented a grenade and wait for someone to ask that question so you can keep them on their toes. They're just like, hold on a second. But regardless, if I ever, well, it's too late now, but if I got caught when I was at school with a grenade under my bed, I'm pretty sure I would have been expelled.
Yeah.
But you gotta take risks as an artist. I'm sure you know that, Zach.
Just for the picture.
Just for the picture. Yeah, I wanted to have a picture of my friend like pulling the pin back and like about to throw it, but it didn't end up making the cut because it didn't look that good anyway. But it was a good way to experiment, and I think that's one thing that you learn when you're being creative is that the stuff that you might be looking for to come out being the best in your work might not be, and the stuff that you at least expect might be the best stuff in your work. And I definitely learned that. One thing I skipped over is I actually uh, uh, I went to Rochester, like I said earlier, and that's where I started experimenting with my point and shoot. But I also went with that point and shoot in 2014 to Spain and France. And I took a lot of photos over there, and there was a program in my high school where you'd be paired up with an artist, and I'm still really good friends with this artist, Frank Tartalion, who is a painter and an abstract artist by trade, but knows a lot about photography and artistry as a whole. And he's also a interior designer. He's done stuff for I think the royal family in I think Amsterdam or something, like Netherlands, I think something like that.
That's cool.
He's done stuff. He's had stuff in like big museums. Really cool guy. And his partner Dave King, of course, I have to mention. Really cool guys. They're actually coming to visit to see my dog this weekend, so looking
That's
forward to
cool.
that.
So how
And
did your video work? Did you do any of that in college or high school?
yeah. So the degree that I started out with was film photography and visual arts. I did a slight switch. I eventually switched to cinema and photography. Big change, I know. Uh, so for film photography and visual arts, it was kind of like a double major. So, like if you think about it, each year, each year would be split up into 2 semesters, and pretty much there'd be 1 semester of photography and 1 semester of video. The way that I set it up. So each year I would just have half the year being video, half the year being photography. And I mentioned a lot of photography stuff, but the video stuff went through training with cinema production 1, 2, advanced cinema production, and then eventually thesis. And I would say that the cinema production 1 was just basically getting a sense of how film aesthetics work. And we had other classes like film A&A, film aesthetics and analysis, where we'd watch movies in a movie theater together and just learn and talk about them. And then we had, other classes about film theory. That was more, analytical, looking at, how artists like, Spielberg, Lucas, Scorsese, all of them, assemble their films and all that stuff. But when it came to actually creating, it would be in the production classes. And the cinema production 1, they didn't allow us to actually have synchronous sound. So we had to so for anyone that doesn't know what that means is when, you watch a film and you see people talking and, you hear what's coming out of their mouth and you see a picture at the same time, that's synchronous sound. So
If it's
when you
off
say
by a little, it looks like they're like puppets almost.
yeah, and that actually, when editing, can easily happen if you have a little mix-up. That's like a technical issue. But when it came down to making, shorts, because we would only have a semester, and that's not enough time to make a feature film of 60 minutes or longer. That's like impossible, especially with the abilities and the equipment and the crew that you'd have and time, especially the time, because you
Yes.
remember this, the cinema production classes would be 4 credits, and you would need to take at least 12 per semester. So we're talking about a heavy course load. Imagine like trying to focus on a film while having all these other classes.
Uh, a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and that's why I'm glad I went to the place where I went at the college, because it kind of gave me the liberal arts college education. So if I want to go on to something else, I have a regular bachelor's degree. But at the same time, it gave me opportunity to also work on films, albeit, it was a little time constrained. It wasn't like I was able to devote all my time to making a film. A cinema production, too, is when I first got synchronous sound, and I made a film. I wanted to make a film that was impactful, that was, poignant and about real life issues. And it's called La Migra, and it's about immigration police, like ICE, deporting people, and about a guy who gets deported. And I wanted to have a story about that, and that went pretty well. It was just trial and error, because I was learning,
Yeah, learning
uh,
on the go.
learning on the go. And by the time I got my junior year, I felt quite confident, and I assembled a crew of about 20 or 30 people. It was quite a bit. And I made this film along with a producer that I had, Gavin, um, called Assassin Camp.
And you should do
And
it, yeah.
it was the crowning achievement, I would say, of my college career when it came to artistry, along with the photo of the kid with the gun. Uh, and that had a very warm reception. It got into a couple of film festivals. It was a
That's
comedy
cool.
about a kid who wanted to go to film camp, and he accidentally went to assassin camp, and he's supposed to kill people and everything. Uh, so it was a time. It was a good time. There was a lot of good memories that I have from working on projects or working on other people's projects. The one regret I had is I didn't work on as many other projects as I wish I could have. Unfortunately, other things came up, classes, had some stomach issues. That was a real rough thing. The stress of filmmaking can really get to you, and everyone's body reacts differently. And for me, it's stomach ache. It's really bad stomach ache that I get. I don't know. Do you ever
That's no
have
fun.
stresses when you're working on, photography, Zach, or anything like that?
Not much. I mean, it's mostly the dealing with people part. I threatened like to give up my photography, like because people weren't like cooperating quite right.
Mm,
But at the
yeah,
end of
the
the day, you
people
love
stuff.
what you do. Just
Hmm.
because one person gives you a hard time doesn't mean everything has to collapse.
That's very true. Yeah, tough clients can really be tough.
Yeah,
uh, and I've been thankful I haven't really had a lot of that. Another thing I have to mention is that when during my summers I was working for the National Park Service, and throughout my time there, I made several documentaries, mini documentaries, and the largest one I made was going into my senior year of college, and it was about African American farmers in our local Kinderhook. So I made a short, and I'd recommend you check that out. It's on my website, and I'm sure you've seen it, Zach.
I think so. Yeah, I watched a lot of those videos you made for them.
Yeah, I made another one about a coffee pot. That's what I did my first year. And you can see that they progressively get better and more complicated as I've purchased more equipment and gotten more training. So
And
it's
challenging yourself too.
challenging myself. Yeah. Actually, the color grading for the last one was done when I was I had an internship in Jerusalem. Uh, wow, it's kind of crazy to think back on how much I did in my 4 years and how much I wish I could have done more, and
But 4 years
how
goes like that.
it goes like that. Yeah. And then you're back home, and then you're just like, whoa, where did all the time go? And now you got to figure out your own way. And that's the one thing I loved about college. And this is a big turnaround, in my psyche from when I was younger, when I said I just want to be ordering people around. And you grow up and you learn that, hey, sometimes I realize that, like, while I can, because I have the ability to be that director type person, I also like being a team player, and I would love to be a part of a team rather than running around myself, like something like doing like freelance. I've learned that like freelance is like, while the most, you know, popular, I'd say, thing that a lot of people in my class are doing after graduation, I'd rather be working for a company and just having a regular set hours and, that kind of thing. And I just,
Have someone direct you.
have someone direct me. I'm still learning. I'm still
Yeah.
getting out there, and I like the idea of having some sort of direction. When I say direction, I mean, when people say like be creative, I've actually, I'm sorry, Zach, I have to say, I've never been a fan of the word creative, or anyone that self describes as a creative, because it's just like, oh, what the hell does that mean? If someone says they're a photographer, if someone says they're, a visual artist, if someone says that they're a cinematographer, an audio tech.
A blank label right there.
Well, it's not. I wouldn't say it's yeah, a blank label. I would say it's like you can.
It's a
It's a
label.
starter.
That's what, yeah.
It's a label that you start out with, and then you develop off of that, and you have other adjectives and other ways of self-describing yourself. But whenever anyone says to me like "be creative," I'm like, like, what does that mean? I just have trouble, but when someone says to me, explore the complexities of immigration in the United States through a film. I'm like, all right, yes, yes. Someone says explore, what it's like to be an African American farmer in the 19th century in Kinderhook, New York. I'm like, okay, I can do that. It's very specific. You get down specifics, and that's what I could do.
So once somebody gives you an idea for something, you can run off with it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you give me an idea and a general gist of what you're looking for, then I can do it.
Then you'll do research about it. You'll ask people questions to learn
Hmm.
more.
Yeah, I love doing that.
Are you working on anything right at the moment with
At the
film or
moment,
photography?
I'm helping my dad. He has a history project where he's already taken the photos of all these buildings around town in Hudson, and he wants me to like edit together a video where he basically has audio interviews of people who've lived through that, and just to like explain how the town has changed over time. So I'll be working on that probably. Hopefully, we should start shooting soon, because it was like 30 degrees and windy and awful today, and I
Yeah,
don't
it's
want to be
freezing
outside,
today.
filming anything, unless if we are. I don't know exactly what he's looking for. And
Especially
also,
with COVID, it's really hard to film people because people
yeah,
will react differently to the situation
well,
at hand.
luckily he did a lot of these. He would call someone on the phone, and he would record the audio of the call and everything. But another project I actually just picked up today is a friend of mine from college, a close friend. She said that her dad has a whole bunch of film slides, from the old projectors and everything that her dad had, and she wants to get them. She wanted prints, and I said I can make small prints, but I have a scanner. So I think I'm going to be scanning maybe, I don't know, several hundred, photos. So
Wow.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
It sounds like you and Josh have the same kind of project.
Yeah.
Found film that you're developing, or not developing, but you're digitalizing.
Yeah. I'm digitizing, a whole bunch, but I'll get the shipment in, I think, like next week or so. But I wasn't planning on doing anything with those photos. I need permission first,
Yeah,
because they
yeah.
want them actually, for their, records. But if there's something interesting in them, then hell yeah. And I also have my own collection for my dad, that he had like from the 1960s. So I already have a whole bunch. So,
So you have a project at hand already.
yep, I got a project at hand.
Are you working on anything for yourself besides those?
Um,
Like any your own?
no, I prefer to work for other people. You know, I'm not the kind of person that likes doing project for myself. I feel like I always want to give back to the community. So for me, serving others is how I serve myself.
So if say somebody had an idea to do a like documentary of like since I love Chatham so much, Chatham, and somebody came to you, like, oh, you want to do like a documentary like your dad is doing with Hudson. Would you
Hmm.
be game for that? If somebody came to you with an idea?
Yeah, yeah, I'd be game for that when the weather gets nicer.
Yeah, of course. You don't want to
Maybe in the
like
spring.
because in cold weather, our cameras die quicker.
They do die quicker, and my hands go first.
That's true. You can always wear gloves.
Oh, of course. But then it's hard to operate the camera.
True. So, is there anything else creative you do besides the camera that you've done in like college or high school or now?
Um, I did do a little bit of drawing. I took a drawing class, an intro drawing class, and I haven't done much outside of it, to be honest. But in the class, my favorite thing was figure drawing, where they bring in a nude model and you just draw them. And I feel like people just have such this prudish approach to nudity where I'm very laissez-faire. I'm just like, oh, whatever, you know. And it was just really cool to be in an environment where you're just looking at the human body just as, you know, a canvas. And just to say, okay, you know, how can we best represent this on paper? How can I, get like, you know, the elbow? How can I get the shoulder? What does that look like? Her shoulder? Does that look different? You know, do I need to improve it, round it more, put it out as a jagged edge? It depends on the individual. It's really fun just to do that.
So you talked about travel. Did you do any photography as you traveled?
Oh, absolutely. Every time I travel, I've done photography. So I guess my big trips were, I mean, every time I went out of the country. So in college, we had a day trip to Canada, which was really cool. We went to see Alice in Wonderland at a theater. I can't remember the name of the theater, but it's like some really famous one. It was at Niagara on the Lake. I got some great photos over there. We didn't go to Niagara Falls, though, fortunately. Um, so Canada. I went to Cuba. There was a week trip that I went to Cuba. Uh, Zach, me talking about this stuff, I miss college so much. I miss college. I wonder if I can get a second bachelor's degree because being out of college is just so dull compared to like, yeah. So I went to Cuba for a week. Had a great time. I took place in an animation workshop where they showed us how they make the animations over there. I don't think we didn't do too much ourselves, but we got to see how it works.
Was it digital animation or like clay animation?
It was clay animation, but they had digital cameras. It was basic, very basic stuff in Cuba, and they were, you know, operating on like Windows 98 practically. So,
Wow,
and
back
this
in the
was like,
day.
yeah, and this is like back in 2017. So they are trying to catch up. But I will say
Slowly.
one thing about Cuba is, you know, what you think of it in photos and everything are the classic cars, but that's changing. That's changing real fast. They're starting to get modern stuff because, long story short, without getting too much into the politics and the history, but you know, they had this whole 1959 coup where Castro took over and said, "We're not going to have capitalism. We're going to have this communism hybrid thing." But in 2011, his brother Raul Castro, who is all, they both have passed now. I think I know Fidel Castro's died, but like Raul opened up the country for capitalism completely, pretty much. So they're gonna they're gonna change very soon.
And an interesting fact about Castro, do you know the United States, or not just the United States, but he's been trying to been assassinated like 360 times.
So a funny thing is when you're in Cuba, one thing that they, you know, like talking about is that kind of thing because they're very proud of it. And they held back a little bit in our trip because we're Americans, and I'm sure they
Because
wanted, you know, not to offend
we've
us.
tried a bunch of times, but other countries tried to kill him too.
Yeah. So the biggest attempt that we had was Bay of Pigs, or as they call it, Playa Giron. And there was a big, I remember distinctly, I wonder if I have a photo of it, that there was a big billboard in town, in the city of Havana, that said Playa Giron, like the movie, like watch it now. And it's like a joke, I think, or maybe it was a real movie that they made, about Bay of Pigs, just about how we failed to invade. So, but I went there. I went to Israel twice. Both one time as Birthright, which is a trip that all Jewish students get to go on to experience the homeland, I guess as they call it, and another time to do an internship with Jerusalem Media Group, where I actually did some videography for a live event that was for the Philips Corporation, where we were filming in Israel, Brazil, and the Netherlands, just all like a live show. And we had a director that was flown in from Los Angeles. It was pretty cool. We had this guy that, like, maybe, like, I'm sure Fortnite, like how they have like big, events of people playing and everything. Like, he was like one of the guys in charge of like the whole show in Madison Square Garden with all like hundreds of cameras.
Wow.
So, I met some really cool people when I was out there. And my last trip was to Argentina, which was cut short a little bit by the COVID, but I was working for a non-for-profit down there called Junior Achievement. So just helping out kids in need with supplemental education. So I was doing a couple of videos for them where I, created, content just of advertising of, how they're dealing with the COVID situation. And they were pretty pleased with that, and I was pleased to work there, but eventually I had to evacuate the country because the borders were closing. So now
So,
I'm back in the United States.
so you talked about going back to, or the idea of going back to school, and you talked about a lot about your work overseas. What would you
Hmm.
rather do? Go back to college and learn more about film and stuff, or go overseas and work for a company over there?
Well, I'd love to go overseas and work for a company, but the only place I think I could go is the one that speaks English right now, because I'm not completely fluent in Spanish. But I
Or
am,
post-COVID?
yeah, no, I am saying that.
Yeah,
Because I'm not fluent in Spanish, and also I did get to see when I was in Argentina a television studio, which is really cool.
that's cool.
Uh, and it looked like just a mini CNN. That's what it looked like, a mini CNN kind of place. And I think it was like Television America or something like that, TV America. And oh, down there they have this big thing where they don't call it North and South America. They just call it the Americas. So if you say I'm like American, I'm from America, they get very offended because they're like, we're America too. Because I think that like South America is America and we're the United States. Just Estados Unidos. Uh, they don't say of America. They just said the United States. So, but post now being back home, there's a couple ideas I got milling around. Number one, I want to get like a part-time job in town, something, but my resume is all video related, so getting a cashier job, I don't know how if they'll trust me with money, because I know I can't count because I do photography. No, just kidding. Um, but getting that, I think I hear my dog. Taking care of my dog, that's a big thing, and I'm doing these days. Um, and I'm thinking of going back to Argentina actually to do another internship just to become fluent. I'd love to be fluent in Espanol. I'm taking lessons right now actually from a family friend to 2 days a week. And I've lost a lot of it, unfortunately. I just lose it so quickly when I'm not there. Um, and there's something called the Jewish Service Corps, which takes place in Washington, D.C., New York, Chicago, and San Diego, several locations. And I'm strongly thinking of applying for next year's season, in which I would be doing some non-for-profit stuff. I think I'd love to work for a non-for-profit, like doing some video work like I did in Argentina, because I like the idea, like when you ask me, like, what kind of work do I do for myself? Doing stuff for others is like the way I serve myself. That's like how I, it really warms my heart being able to do something bigger than myself. Like when I worked for the National Park Service, for example, that was like serving a community that was bigger than myself. So I'd really like to maybe go to grad school for nonprofit work, and just learn how to like navigate that field and maybe do some photography or videography for a non-for-profit somewhere.
So, asking something else. You have any questions for me? You know, we're friends. You have
uh, I thought you were leading this session.
any... This podcast is like more of a conversation. So, if you have any questions for me,
Yeah, so I'm just curious. It always seems, Zach, that you have like an activity and artistry, like you're working on in the moment. But are there any big moves that you're thinking? Let's say like a 5-year plan. Like I'm curious, like where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
in the MoMA, the Guggenheim. No,
Oh, that's a big jump, but yeah, I believe in you. I believe
small
in you.
town of Columbia County or small county to like Guggenheim and New York City.
Have you been to the
Have
Guggenheim?
I been there? That's the circle one, right? Yeah,
Yep.
I've been there. I think twice.
You know what? Me and you should plan a time when we should go down to the city and just visit a bunch of like museums.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Like walk around.
Yeah. Well, are they open now, or has COVID shut that down too?
I think they're open. We're
All
probably
right.
limit because since the spike went up, I guarantee they're gonna shut down the country again.
Shucks. Well, once I get the vaccine, me and you will go down to the city and we'll hit all the museums.
Sounds good. We'll hit every single one, even
Oh man.
the alley ones. I'm like you walk in and there it is right in front of you.
Yeah, I've seen those. Those are down. I forgot what neighborhood are those in. It's near like Aperture Galleries. Ever been there before?
No,
It's more down. If you go downtown, then you'll encounter a lot of. I think in like Soho in that area, you'll encounter a lot of the galleries.
because I forget where when I was, but I saw you're walking somewhere and I saw one of those like galleries. You just turn your head and there's everything.
Mm. Yeah,
Maybe
I
I
got a
should do one
friend
of those
down
in
there.
Chatham.
Yeah, I got a friend down the city. I'll have to ask her if she wants to join us. Maybe we could all get
And
together.
maybe Josh, the first podcast will come and join us.
Yeah, that'd be cool. The more the merrier, you know.
True, true. No,
But like seriously, like 5 years from now, so the Guggenheim, what are you gonna be at the Guggenheim for? That's the real question. Like,
that's true. I have no clue. Maybe a fellowship or one of those. I mean,
have you
cool.
have you looked into a couple of them?
Not recently. I mean, I've looked at like other famous photographers, like who did one? I'm pretty sure Avedon had a fellowship. I know Ansel Adams had at least one or two. But I mean, it'd be interesting to see get like a fellowship, maybe get into some residencies for my painting and photography. That'd be kind of interesting to
I
do.
feel like you're painting, like there's a lot of like avenues for you, especially you're painting on photos, because that's really a unique thing. Not, I'm sure there are others people that do it, but it's less done. And the stuff that I've seen looks really good. And I think is really an avenue for you to go down that route.
Thank you. And yeah, I feel like people get like a mixed reaction. Of course, when you first do things, people always have a mixed reaction. Like when I first was doing street photography and I posted it, not many people liked it. Like, some people said, "Oh, it's creepy," but it's like it's been
You
done.
got to get past that.
Yeah,
It's been done. It's been done for over 100 years. People do street. One of
yeah,
the first photos, was street photography.
exactly. Or when I first started doing a lot of black and white, not many people liked it at first. Now people love it. So
Hmm.
to me, for a consumer end, I feel like the more you do something that people don't 100% agree with, they'll end up liking.
Absolutely.
Because the more you show somebody something, the more they like it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, the person that invented photography, as we know it, Daguerre, he was kind of like an showman. He knew how to sell products and do stuff like that. So it's all about how you can sell it, along with the actual talent and the technical expertise.
I think it was Stieglitz who was the first like gallerist slash photographer who made photography art. Before then, it wasn't
Yes,
really art.
yes. I actually have a Stieglitz on my wall right over here. I'll just turn the camera so you can see. It's that one over there. It's called the steerage. It's about just immigration to the United States back in the early 20th century. But Stieglitz and Steichen, or Steichen, I always forget how to pronounce his name. I also have a picture that's the Flatiron that's over there as well on the wall. They're my favorite photographers of the 20th century. And their stuff was the pictorialist movement. And their idea was that they said, we're going to imitate paintings because that's art. Paintings are art, so we're going to make our photos look like that rather than look like a straight on, like a mugshot. But then there was this photographer, Paul Strand, who said, no, 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 I'm going to take photos. I feel like the stuff that you do, Zach, is more like Paul Strand. Um, and some of our contemporaries, like Ken Bovat, he does like photo. What does he call his stuff?
To me, because since he uses Photoshop a lot, his is more whenever people Photoshop their images to like the nth degree. To me, that's um like photo art.
That's what he calls it. He calls
Yeah,
it photo art. So yeah, that's more like pictorialist versus Strand, which is more, just straight on, just head on.
like somebody
Uh,
who I get inspiration from, looking backwards, is like Walker Evans and Robert
oh,
Ford.
I love Walker Evans. Yeah, documentary, kind of photography, the Great Depression, the Recovery Acts Administration. They did a lot of great stuff.
I feel like some of my images, especially like the old buildings and trees and stuff, are like very like his.
Yeah, and street photography too. They did a lot of that. There was the whole, what was this? I'm trying to remember the National Recovery Act. They had like all these photographers back in the 30s that were, Walker Evans was one of them.
Back when the
Uh,
government cared about photography.
yeah, because
The
yeah, back when the government cared about, yeah.
arts.
Unfortunately, well, we'll see with the new administration how they're going to care about the arts. But regardless if that people care or not, public health is going to be prioritized.
And still, even like with like Obama, the arts weren't as put as a priority back in the day when it was like photography was like, kind of new back then, like documenting things.
Yeah,
Because you
definitely.
had to have money to be a photographer in a way back then. Because you had to buy the film, you had to buy the camera, you had to buy the darkroom stuff, you
You
had
had to
to
get the dark
develop
room.
like all the chemicals and stuff.
Yeah, it was more a complicated process.
Yeah. And there's nothing like the information we have today. We can just go on YouTube and type in how to pour chemicals, how to set up a dark room in your
You had to
bathroom.
learn from a master, and you'd
Yeah,
be
you learn from
apprentice.
somebody.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Back in the day. Now information's at our fingertips.
I know, and the problem is it makes it so, well, it's not a problem. It's like great that everyone can do photography, but I think that's why I said there's a real avenue for you doing mixing the painting with the photos because a lot of people do photos, and some people can do paintings, but if you're able to mix them, people will really see that and like that.
And also, like when I first started doing my own pictures, there's a few like photographers, of course, not really consumer mostly.
Hmm.
They said, "Oh, you're ruining your picture." It's like it's a digital image. I can print as many as I want. I mean, some of the things I find, like the found art or the found pictures, I can't reproduce since they're not mine. They're one of one. Unless I, in my closet, I have a source material. I'm calling it. I
Hmm.
like prints I found or group photos that I haven't touched yet that I want to enlarge, either on canvas or on paper.
Hmm.
But I think those would be like a one of one type things. But who knows? I'm still learning that stuff.
I'm still learning a lot about technology, especially as it changes so fast. I also want to know how you do the backgrounds on Zoom because I don't use Zoom that much, and now I'm just like I'm jealous. I like your background.
After we're done talking, I'll show you how to do it.
Excellent, excellent. I'll need that
Small little trick.
small little trick. Yeah, it seems to it mirrors you fairly well, but once in a while with your hands, like in between them, in between the fingers, it gets a
Or
little
if I want to
lost.
show you something, see,
Wait, oh, it just disappeared. Oop.
see. The fun of the AI, what do you want to call it? AI technology, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely AI. And that's in our field now.
Yeah, that's another whole conversation of AI and how some companies now, like Adobe.
How do you feel about Elon Musk's Neuralink idea of having greater capabilities mentally through putting a chip in your head?
I think the first few rounds of it are more for medical purposes. I don't
Yes.
think. I mean, definitely in our lifetime it'll happen, but I don't think you'll like want to do like mind, like where you can plug your brain into a computer and like remove stuff or add stuff.
Ugh.
I mean, that'll
Imagine if
happen
like
in
you
our
couldn't
lifetime.
afford to go on a. Imagine if you couldn't afford to go on vacation, but you'd pay to like get the memories of the vacation added to your head.
I feel like it's in that way. It'll be like VR, like contact lenses. You can go
Mm.
anywhere you want in the world by like
Ooh.
your eyes.
So you're in a dingy alley in the middle of like New York City, and it's like, whoa, I'm in Miami Beach.
Or also the people who are like disabled can't really
Mm.
go anywhere. So they put these glasses or contacts in and they can go anywhere in the world they want.
They already have the VR headsets, but having contacts would make it like really streamlined.
Yeah, because then it's flat against your eye and then having something you can wear permanently.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool stuff. Well, I wonder what they're going to do with photography because, for example, I had the flagship, you know, Canon camera, the 5D Mark IV, and I'm wondering what's next because that came out in 2016, and I know that they have some mirrorless cameras, but I wonder that's a small jump because they've had mirrorless for a while, but I wonder what's really next in cameras.
Like I know with some editing software that there's like AI. Like this
Hmm.
video I think I showed you was Photoshop. How their new program on your face. I can change your how your eyes are directed. I can change if you're happy or sad. I can change your whole face by one
Deep
small program.
fakes, deep fakes are scary.
Yeah, I mean this is like a personal deep fake in a way. Like you can show off, like say you're having a bad day, but you're talking to like a cute girl. You can send her a picture of you happy.
That's a very specific example that yes, I've encountered that so many times. I must have a cure. I cannot produce a fake smile. I must. The computer will do it for me.
Or if you want to show like a potential girl you're younger, you can always go to the age slider and slide it back a few years.
Is there one that can make me skinnier?
Hey, that's what Photoshop is for.
Yeah, get rid of my gut.
And it's only that picture, not reality.
Yeah. Well, as long as you don't do it too much. If you do a slight
Make you
tweaks.
like this.
Oh God. Yeah, if you do slight tweaks, that's all right. But if you go too far, then I
Make
think
you
they're
look
going to
anorexic.
notice. Well, they might be disappointed when they see you in real life. That's the
Catfish.
biggest failure. Yeah, it's a catfish.
So where do you see yourself in like say 10 years?
Oh man. All right. Well, hold on. I just got out of college and you doubled it. I said 5 years and you say 10. Woo! All right, so
Or where
32.
do you see yourself in the future?
No, 32. Okay. I'm not going to say like this is necessarily all like I hope it's realistic, but like, I would like by 32 to have a special somebody, you know, that's
Wife, kids, and the
steady.
picket
And,
fence.
uh, it doesn't have to be a picket fence, but yeah, yeah. uh, when I was younger, I just kept on saying I want to have as many kids as possible, but that was always a joke. And the more that I meet kids, the less I think that's bearable. Uh, um, yeah, and I'm not even the one giving birth, so I need to really shut
True.
up. Uh, but yeah, I'd like to have that. And when it comes to a career, I'd like to have something meaningful where I'm really giving back to society. I'd really like to be engaged with my community and doing good work. And being creative doesn't necessarily mean that I would be doing photography or film work, even though I'd like to be doing that stuff. I'm open. I'm really open. I'm at this crossroads in my life where path I go was going to be really important. I remember I actually back about a year ago, I went to a psychic, actually. And he told me that I have about a year or so, a window in my life. And then after that, like it's gone, like a window for like a choice. And I still don't know what that is, and I think I must have missed it because I don't know. It's been like about a year now. I think no, it'll be in January, so I guess I got a little time.
So would you try like graphic design or like something like along those lines? Or
Yeah, I could try that. I mean, I could try anything.
or do you want more
I
like hands-on like work like painting or like woodworking kind of creativity?
I feel like I'll be honest, I'm like at this point in my life where I'm very confused, especially with coronavirus. Like, I see
I
my
think
life
yeah, we're all in the
prospects
same
just
state.
yeah, we're all in the same state. So when it comes to what I like doing this, what I like doing that, it's more like, is there an opportunity for that right now? Okay, I'll do
True.
it. I'll take what I can get.
Have you during the COVID, even though it's not over yet,
Yeah.
have you experimented with any other forms of creativity or any?
Blogging. I doing blogs. When I was in Argentina, I did a lot of blogs, and I wish I was traveling still.
Put
Stupid coronavirus, so I could be doing more blogs. But
your VR glasses on.
yeah, I could do that. But no, doing blogs was a really good way to pass the time during the outbreak. And I did some in Argentina, and eventually, when I had to evacuate, I took a lot of great photos during that. And they were very popular. So I would love to get back to blogging. People really like them.
So you haven't made any since you're home.
Well, I went on a trip to the Grand Canyon, and I made that one. I finished that one when I was at home, but it was the photos from the Grand Canyon and everything.
I'll link your blog in the my blog post.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah, pick
A
your
blog
favorite
and a
one,
blog.
a blog and a vlog. Yeah, or you could just have the whole list of them. But I think it was like 5 or 6 of them, and yeah, that's the creativity I want to get back to. But you know how like people have a writer's block? I'm having a creativity block. I just need to get out of it. So I'm just trying to experiment, trying to see what's next, and you know, trying to feel better in this Corona Blues world. But yeah,
So thanks for being on my podcast thing, whatever this thing turns out to be.
no, it's a podcast, and you did great, Zach. I'm glad to be here. I was a little nervous at first, but you made it very easygoing, and I think people are going to really love it.
The method I like to use is KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
I think I've heard that in a YouTube video somewhere.